Hello and welcome to Light Your Life. I'm your host, Tina Marie Saints here. And as always, it is so good to be with you. We bring you the lives of amazing humans that are doing great in our world. They get to share their journey and what they've come through, surmounted, the odds that they've met, and how they did it. And why are they here? What is the message that they hold for you in your soul and your heart to allow you to have a better life? That's what we're here for, to light your life a little more. Let me tell you about our wonderful guests. I love having conversations with Udo. Udo Erasmus is our guest today, and he's going to help us learn how to live lit from within and what that means. Udo is, if you've ever wondered who is responsible for the healthy fats movement, you get to hear that from Udo today. And why we need to have flax oil. I love flax oil, by the way, especially on my salads. He's also the co-founder of Udo's Choice supplement brand and is a global leader of cutting-edge health products sold in all the stores that you love. And you've seen his name. Maybe you haven't paid attention to who is behind the name. You get to hear his story today. Udo is also an accomplished author, including Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill, that has sold over 250,000 copies worldwide. He has an extensive education background. Hold on, listen to this. Education in biochemistry, biology. He's a master's degree in counseling psychology from Adler University and has impacted over 5 million lives by passionately conducting 5,000 plus seminars and live presentations, interviews like this, and traveled to over 40 countries worldwide with his messages. And he gets to share it today with you at the Light Your Life podcast audience. Thank you so much, Udo, for being here. I can't wait to just know how our conversation is going to unfold. It'll be definitely organic, soul-based, and heart-based, just like you are.
Yeah, no one knows how it's going to unfold yet.
Yes, exactly.
In an hour, we'll have a pretty good idea.
We totally will. Well, it will have been done, right?
Exactly.
Awesome. I wanted to start out. I read a lot about your bio. I stalked you a bit here, and I love that you started out as a 60s hippie. I am the product of hippies. Supposedly at Haight-Ashbury, they think that's where I was conceived, and so
in the park.
In the park. Yep.
My
mom was adventurous. With a blanket, lots of them. So you're a product of the 60s, and I mean, we could think that all these people that we revere, and I revere you as mentors, led these really wonderfully wholesome life, but BS on that, right? So where did Udo and his character and his spirit really begin?
Well, yeah, it began about 20 years, well, almost 30 years before the hippie days.
Wow, tell us about
it. In Poland, when it was part of Germany during the Second World War. I was born in 1942. My parents had come from Latvia and Estonia, and they left when the communists took over Latvia because they loved Russians and they hated communism because communists took everything away from everybody. And then the state owned everything and nobody had anything and nobody had freedom. And there were always things you couldn't find. And like, it was it was a difficult life. And they went through the First World War up there. Then they went through the Bolshevik Revolution, started at the end of the First World War. Then they went through the Depression. And then they left just before the Second World War. And Germany had taken over part of Poland. And because they had German-Swedish background, they got given some land in Poland. And the man who owned the land ended up working for my father on his own farm.
Oh, interesting.
So I sometimes say, well, I was born on a stolen farm. And then at the end of the war, we were refugees. I was not quite 3 yet. And we were fleeing out of Poland with the communists on our tail, chasing us in tanks and trucks, down dirt roads on horse-drawn hay wagons, mostly women, mothers, and young children. No men, they were all off to war, and no military presence on those roads. And the Allies, who were supposed to be the good guys, were using us as target practice, shooting at us from planes.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. And I was, and I don't remember much other. There were dead horses and people in the ditches. It was chaotic. It was frightening. Anxiety is a big deal for me.
Yeah.
And you couldn't trust anything. And every day things were different, kind of like right now, right? Every day you get some different instructions about what you should be doing. And it's like, it's really confusing. And so my mother had 6 kids, 6 and under, by herself. The wagon broke down, and she went through the fields because the fields were safer than the roads.
Right.
But she couldn't take 6 kids with her, so she had to make a choice to leave 4 kids behind.
Oh, and where were you in the mix of that?
I was one of them. And I ended up in an orphanage for a short time. Eventually, we got reunited. Long story. And I grew up really, really shy. I didn't know. I never knew. I never felt safe. So I lived in a world of books because books are safe. You can see a few books behind me.
Yes, a few books.
Yeah, I have a lot more books than that. So books were safe, because you can read about a war in a book, but that's different than actually dodging bullets.
Yes.
So I lived in the world of that. And then when it came to getting educated, I wanted to understand how things work. First in science, how do things work? Because when you know how things work, then you get a little bit of predict and control.
Right? That's certainty.
That's what science is about, to learn so that you can predict and control the behavior of things. And then you can make gadgets, right? And you know how they're going to work because you understand the science. So I got into that. Then I got into biological sciences because I wanted to understand how creatures work.
Yeah.
And then I got into psychology because I wanted to know how thinking works. Then I got into medicine because I wanted to know how health works, because it's called healthcare. And I thought that's where you learn about health. Well, it turned out I only learned about disease there. And I asked the dean, well, what is health? He said, we don't know. We're working on it. And that was the end. And we were told that a doctor should sound as though he knows what's going on, even when he doesn't. And that ended my medical career because I couldn't see myself lying to people, making stuff up because I'm supposed to be an expert and experts are supposed to have answers. And I went back into biological sciences because that's where you learn about health, because you're studying normal creatures under normal situations with normal behavior. And
watching the chemistry of all of it.
Yeah. And then I got into the biochemistry and genetics of all of that. It was like, oh, this was so, I loved it. But then there was still something missing. And I didn't know what it was, but I knew I had tried. I'd looked at some of the other arts faculties and, in psychology and social psych and sociology. And I dabbled in all of that. And what I was looking for was still missing, and I didn't know what it was. And so finally I said, I'm not going to find it at university. And I left. And then I got into psychedelics. 60s happened at that point. So psychedelics broke open my world because I was so tight. And psychedelics do that. They break open your habitual patterns and give you more options. They connect parts of your brain that are not connected. That's why they can be very useful when people have addictions or depression or anxiety or PTSD, because those are brain tracks we run down. And they are so well trod, those tracks, that between the trigger and the response, there's always a gap. But the more we track them, the shorter the gap becomes. And the less likely we are to see that we have other options. And the more we are likely to run down the track just because we run down it 100,000 times before. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cemented.
In fact, to break that open is the therapy in that case. Yeah.
Just a thought there. Do people, I had a client who was asking me, I keep doing this. I'm trying my best to be more organized, to be more focused, and yet I keep having distractions and I go off in this tangent and this tangent. Is the lack of focus one of these tracks that you talk about that people can get stuck in, to not have the energy to stay focused, and their MO or addiction is to stay distracted?
No, I would say that you're not addicted enough.
Tell me more about that.
Because if you want to stay focused, then you want to run that track so many times that it becomes habitual. So and in a way, that's what you do when you learn skills.
Right.
You get better at it, better at it. Pretty soon it becomes second nature. Well, that would be true for being focused as well.
Or even having the ability to focus on something for a long period of time.
Well, we have the ability to focus. You know, something moves out there and boom, it has your attention. So we're very good at focusing. We may not be very good at focusing for long on the same thing that might actually already be boring after 2 minutes.
True.
Because we're actually attracted by change. And that's for survival.
Your mind is. Yeah.
And that's survival, right? And we had to learn how to do that for survival. But in getting focused on change on the outside, we got disconnected from focus on wholeness on the inside, or on unconditional love, or on peace on the inside, because that's there too. It's just that our reality becomes wherever our focus goes.
That's so true.
And freedom that we have, like when we talk about freedom, the main freedom that we have in our life is that we are free to move our focus from wherever we want to wherever we want.
That's beautiful. I'm going to come back to that thought, because I know you're so deep. We can have that conversation. I want to have that conversation on the love and the soul and the inner, to be lit from within. You touched on psychedelics, and it breaks the patterns. And I know I've been seeing a lot of return to that lately for people.
Yeah. And there's other ways to do it. There's something called a scramble in neurolinguistic programming. And what you do is you take a track, and the track has words like, it's not fair, what's the use, nobody loves me, I'm no good, something's wrong with me, just stuff we say that, like,
right, or I'm so stressed out.
You say it over and over. Yeah. And not like I use something as an excuse to stress myself, but it stressed me out, and I am the victim of that thing, right?
Exactly.
And so what they do then is they play a game. They say, okay, I want you to say this thing that you say to yourself all the time that gets you into your depression, or that gets you into your anxiety, or that gets you into the state you don't want to be in. But I want you to say it not like, oh, why is it always happening to me? I want you to say it really sexy. Why isn't it happening to me?
Yeah.
Why is this always happening to me? Right? And that changes the tone. And then you say, okay, well, let's say it like the Terminator would say it.
Why is this always happening to me?
Yeah, like that, right? I'll be back, and I'll be back. Right? Or like the singing chipmunks. Or say
like
it.
Mickey Mouse. Yeah.
Yeah, or say it to the lyrics of a kid's song that you know. And while you're doing all that, maybe you could just stand in your living room and, rub your stomach this way, right? And this way, and then turn around, and do all that while you're saying these things.
So you're scrambling it.
Yeah. So, and then you turn around and you do other movements, and, by the time you're done, it might take 30 minutes. You're probably giggling because we're being totally silly.
Right.
And giggling doesn't go with depression. So what you've done by making all these other connections to this thing you say that gets you depressed, now you're saying it, but you've got 100 options. And depression is not fun if you see the option, because you've scrambled it and you've opened up those options. If you see other options, you probably would put depression a lot lower on your list of priorities.
Right.
But you're doing it because you're so habituated to it that you don't see any other options.
So scrambling up those. I love that idea.
Yeah. Now you have this saying that gets you into depression. You have it associated with silliness and animals and, songs and childhood memories, right? And then, you can still go to depression, but you're likely not to want to, because
stay there as long.
Yeah, or you wouldn't even go there. That's what's so cool about it. You don't even go there because you have other options, and many of the other options you would rather go there if you knew that you could. Now you know you can because you just did it, right? That's the scramble. So that's similar to what psychedelics do.
Do you ever find that people like having their worry and their stress and their identity of things not
Sure.
being good. Yeah.
Oh, sure. You know, that's like that joke about psychology. How many psychologists does it take to change a light bulb? You know that
Only
joke?
one, but the light bulb's got to want to change.
Yeah, only one, but only if the light bulb wants to change. And that's
Yes,
the
I
thing.
remember
You can't force change on people.
Mm-mm.
They have to want to change. So when do they want to change? Either because they have an insight that things could be better, or because the pain of not changing is stronger than the pain of changing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then you get buy-in. And once you get buy-in, the change is not that difficult. In fact, once a person is ready to change, it's almost like the psychologist he's just a witness more than, because if somebody is determined that they want to change, then
The energy is already there.
the energy is there and they'll figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And the psychologist can help because they may be more familiar with the territories, but yeah, you can't force change on people. This is everybody's big lament, because all the people we'd like to change, whose behavior we don't like or whom we love, we'd like them to change for their own good or because we don't like how they are. And that's not in our power. We can influence them. We cannot buy into whatever it is that we don't like, but we can't force the change on them.
Right. And so I wanted to
usually
ask,
when you try to force change on people, they just become stronger in their stupid beliefs.
yeah, they're stupid movies. I like that term. They do. I'm learning that. I'm a parent, so I have kids.
Yeah.
Definitely been there. I wanted to ask the pivotal question for our podcast today. What does it mean to be lit from within?
Lit up from within.
Yeah.
Well, lit up from within is, in Buddhism, they talk about enlightenment. So the idea was Buddha was enlightened. What does that mean? He was lit up from within. What does that mean? He was in touch and aware of and experiencing the light within him that is called life, or that solar energy, because that's what our life is. And why is that a big deal? Is because when we're in our mother's womb, we actually live in that light. Because in your mother's womb, I call it the Buddha tank. Right?
Yeah.
The Buddha tank. Why is that? Because in the Buddha tank, you're floating on a little cord. Everything is taken care of. There's no place to go. There's nothing to do. And it's safe. And because there's nowhere to go and nothing to do, your awareness remains while you're in the tank, at rest, in its source, inside your body, in the energy that is the life that is growing you.
Yeah.
And that is the light that you actually are. Now, let me just sidetrack on that. If I say to you, Tina, whose body is that? And I point at you.
Yeah.
What do you say?
We would typically say it's my body, right?
Yeah. Typically people say it's my body.
It's a body.
The thing that's so cool about it is that when I say this is my body, I've just said that I am not the body. We live as though we were the body. We eat for the body and sleep for the body and go to the toilet for the body and have sex for the body and rest for the body and work for the body and get a job to get the money, to get the stuff for the body.
To feed the body,
So we live like we were the body, but we're actually not the body, but the owner. If this is my body, I'm the owner. So then who am I as the owner of the body?
I guess it's the light inside that you speak of.
Life, because when life and the body part company, body's finished. All of a sudden, no more needs, no more nothing, right? So I'm life. Life owns the body. Life is omnipresent within me, everywhere present in my body. Omnipotent, all power in my body is life. The only power in my body is life. And omniscient, all-knowing in the body, because it knows, even though it weighs nothing, it runs everything. All the cells dividing and the kidneys filtering and the liver detoxing and the brain firing and the heartbeat pushing the blood, right?
Mhm.
Everything done by life, most of it without our input. And often our input is counterproductive. If we
Isn't
can
that
get
the truth?
keep our head out of the way, life does a really good job of taking care of this thing.
It's like one of our number one lessons. It's like one of our number one lessons is to keep ourselves out of our own way.
Yeah, and it's hard,
Mhm.
right? And yeah, life is unconditional love for the body. If I could bring my focus inside into the light, into the life, into the solar energy that I am in my individual essence, I would feel unconditional love for the body, because that's all life does. Its only job is to take the best possible care of the body. Never takes time off, never goes on strike, never says, no, I'm not doing that. You know, it just does. I can interfere. It'll still try to do it. You know, I can hate my life. It will still take care of me. There's a good model for unconditional love. Now,
It really is.
What happens when we get born, our awareness goes from being present inside, because there was nowhere to go. And now it goes into the world, because I have to get to know the world to understand how to live in it in order to survive, in order for the body to survive for the time that it has on the planet.
Wow, talk about
And
going
so
from heaven to, I guess, a whole new environment. Wouldn't you say
it's
it's the
kind of
Buddha?
like it's kind of like that. Yeah. So you're going from present inside and absent outside through your senses to being present outside and absent inside. And in that change of focus, because all it is a change of focus, your awareness gets disconnected. Our awareness gets disconnected from its source, from life, from the light that we are.
Wow.
Right? And with that comes an ache, heartache. You know, when people don't feel restless, empty, yearning, striving, hoping, praying, grieving, sorrow,
right?
Blue if somebody dumps me, right? Heartbroken, you know, and it's triggered by so many things. Grandma dies, triggers it. Dog runs away, triggers it. Somebody makes a promise and they break the promise, disappointment triggers it, and an uneasy feeling in our chest. That feeling, I've got 10 pages of different things people call it. Even can't feel like I can't breathe, isolated.
I've used the term homesick.
Desolated, homesick. Homesick is a similar feeling. It's the same feeling. Yeah. If you strip that feeling of all of the triggers, because we think it's grandma made me sad, but grandma's okay. Everybody dies perfectly. Grandma's okay. I'm alive. How come I'm not okay? You know, if there was something wrong and death was a bad thing, then grandma should not be okay. And I should be okay because I'm alive, right? But no, because we have it confused. So why this trigger is because once we get out there and we've lost ourselves and there's an uneasiness, then our driving force in our life becomes trying to find that ease again. And all the big projects that we do and all the things that we hope for, there's always the hope tied to them. They're driven by this. And there's always the hope that when I succeed, when I accomplish what I set out to do, I'll feel okay again. I will feel the relief of this drive.
Wow.
And the thing is, it never happens, because when you do, and sometimes it takes people years, decades sometimes, to get to this achievement. They get 3 days where they say, "Yay, I did it." And on the fourth day,
the
ache's back. And why is that? Because you cannot fix an internal disconnection with an external connection. But that's what we do. That's how we live our life. That's what we've been doing.
Right.
That's what we've been doing for 200,000 years. That's how come we're destroying the planet and our politics and our relationships and our health and everything else, because we're trying to fix on the outside. And when we can't do it in easy ways, then we look for more difficult ways. Like if not something normal, we'll start doing abnormal things. You know, that's why people kill each other. That's why people get drug addicted. That's why, I mean, it goes on and on and on. That's why somebody thinks it's a cool thing to walk barefoot across Antarctica, right? And then think, oh, well, I will be really unique, which is true. You're unique anyway, but that will not, you'll get frostbite on your toes, but you ain't going to get your heart filled with light.
So tell us, Udo, what is the secret?
so the method, the message of the masters was that they were clear. The ache, this uneasy feeling in your chest, is actually not about all of the things that you lost. It's actually that when you lose those things that you've distracted yourself into because you were trying to fix this, and every time they end, you fall back to this feeling, which is the feeling of your loss of your connection to yourself that you had when you were in the Buddha tank.
Wow.
And then what they said is sit instead. They didn't say distract yourself from it. What we do is when we feel it, we don't like it. So we either distract ourselves from it, or we try to ignore it, or we try to deny it, or we blame it on somebody or something. I think that's pretty much.
Very philosophical about things. Have you?
Yeah, that's
people that talk about it.
Yeah, that would be a distraction too. Yeah,
it is. It is.
Yeah, and when you blame it on somebody or something, that's where you get terrorism. That's why people attack different, then it's like, oh yeah, there's my enemy. And if I could just get rid of that enemy, I would feel okay again. You don't. You get rid of the enemy, and 3 days you go, yeah, I got rid of him. And then the thing is back. And so what the masters said, first of all, they made it clear. This is your heart calling your focus back home inside to its source in life. And when you do that, you will feel whole, because that is where your wholeness lives. Even when you don't feel whole, the wholeness is right in behind that ache. It's always there. It's always there. You cannot not be whole. Wonderful. Except as a thought in your head.
Right, a concept.
Right? Yeah. And then you can try to, you can do things that make you not look whole, because you're putting your thought, you're creating a reality in the shape of your thought. Right?
Can I ask you a question?
So the idea of these guys was sit with the ache,
right?
Feel it, don't deny it, accept it, don't judge it, just feel it, be with it, embrace it, accept it, maybe even be grateful for the power that it has to call you home. Because if you didn't have this, then you would get lost and you would never find your way home.
Well, I love that perspective.
And that makes that ache the greatest gift you've been given, other than being alive.
There's like simultaneous gifts, right?
Yeah.
Your first breath and your first
life is your gift, and the ache that calls you home is your second greatest gift.
I love this. This is so great. Okay,
and then, so what do you do? Your question was, well, so how do you do it?
Well, another question I have, before that, a question I have is, okay, maybe it's not before it, but let's say you feel that, like you said, 3 days, oh, I'm so whole, and I get that, and you feel that connection, and it's so rich and ripe. Does humanity itself get addicted to feeling the ache so it could derive some type of purpose in its being?
No. No, we don't get addicted to it. We get addicted to trying to deny it. We try to distracting ourselves from it, to not feeling it. We get addicted to that.
Okay.
Because it's not comfortable. This is not a comfortable feeling. It's just the starting point. That's where we are.
Wonderful. Okay. So now what advice do you have for us to connect to this?
So, so when you accept the feeling, first of all, it's your starting point for your journey back to your home. So homesickness is a really good word for it, but home to you, not home to your mommy.
No,
not home to your house.
In some essence that I feel homesick, like literally, like the only term I could ever give it was homesickness. Like I knew that there was something there, and I don't even know where the home is. I just simply know the home is there, and I want to find the journey back to it, but I don't have the map. Right?
So the good news is that you do know where the home is.
Yeah, it's pretty damn close.
It is when you got the homesickness, you're in the starting blocks, and less than a hair's breadth behind it is your wholeness. So you literally, you want to sit with it instead of distracting yourself. You sit with it. It's like putting your blocks, putting your feet in the starting blocks for the race, right? If you want to have a 800-meter race, you say, I'm going to win the 800-meter race. I'm going to get the gold medal because I'm really good. But by God, I am not going to put my feet in the starting block. Right? You can't take a journey if you don't know both the starting point and the goal.
Fair enough.
That's true for this one as well. So the starting point is the ache, and that far behind it is your wholeness. And so literally what all the wise people recommend, just like you take time for breakfast, and you take time for work, and you take time for sleep, and you take time for kids, and you take time for whatever you take time for, make time every day to sit with yourself, to feel what is there. And when you sit down, so you close your eyes, shut off all of your distractions, close your eyes, see how still you can become. We used to do that when we did hide and seek. Somebody, we were sort of exposed, and we didn't hold our breath, and
right.
No, no, nothing like that. No sound,
no breathing,
no breathing. So see how still you can get, and then see how deep you can go into that stillness, and then see how long you can stay in that stillness, and see how lightly you can breathe. Not like, don't drag your breath through your throat, not like that, but how light, and then how slowly you can breathe. So you slow it down. And in that place, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half hour, an hour, whatever you want, as long as you can, though.
Right.
What do you notice in that space? And here's what's really interesting. If you close your eyes and you do that, the first thing is you're going to see darkness, right? If you shut off all the lights, so you're going to see darkness. But if you go deep enough into the darkness, you will see light in that darkness. And that's the light that is your life. If you become still like that, in that stillness, if you go deep enough into that stillness, you will hear a sound there, a sound in silence. That sound is the sound of your life.
Beautiful.
And it's like so unbelievably calm. And if you go deep enough into your emptiness, the heartache that we're talking about, you go deep enough into that emptiness, you will discover unconditional love there. So now your senses that are usually going out automatically, you've deliberately brought them back, and you're now using your senses, because senses monitor energy. We don't think about it, but that's what they do, right?
Right.
So light, sound, feeling, taste, senses monitor energy. Your senses can also monitor the energy that is life within you, if you're willing to sit still enough and bring your focus inside. And all of the people who teach self-presencing use breath, slow down, do nothing, time with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And you do that. We're not very good at it because we go out. We don't come back very much. We don't do that very much. But if you do it like you did when you started walking, you tried to get up and you fell down, and tried to get up and you fell down, and you did that for 8 months, every day, many times a day, and by a year old you could walk. Well, this is like that too. You become good at what you practice. So if you practice bringing your awareness inside, and it feels strange at the beginning because you're not used to it, but the feeling you get into is, you will recognize it because you've been in that feeling. You started in that feeling. That's where you were when you were in the Buddha tank. And the enlightenment that Buddha talked about is you bring your awareness inside, sit quietly. They all have some kind of a meditation practice or something, where you just sit still and be with yourself. And enlightened means lit up from within, because that is your nature. It's not like it's not your nature now too. It's just your focus is not on that nature, and you learn to bring your focus to it. And that has to be done deliberately, because there's nothing inside going, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me. No. It's really quiet down there. So your tendency will always be to go outside, because that's where all the change happens. Deliberate, going inside requires deliberate. Why? And the closest you come is because the heart is calling you in. And so you deliberately follow that. Okay, I want to go inside. It's like
falling in love with yourself.
You will indeed fall in love with yourself. You will fall in love with the love you are.
Yes.
Because by nature, you are love. And then if you sit in that state, then being loving outward.
It's so easy.
Is automatic. If deeper than the love actually is peace. And I can be sitting here, wherever I am. I'm in Vancouver, right? I'm sitting here, got a window here, some lights, got the computer, and I can sit here and get into this peace that is my universal nature. It's the foundation of my existence, and peace is also the foundation of the existence of the universe. And that's real as an experience, not as an explanation. When I feel that peace, I look around and I say, oh my God, peace has always already been everywhere. Forever, always been everywhere. Well, then how come I don't see it? Oh, because only peace knows peace. So if I can't see peace everywhere, it's because it's not peace in me that's doing the observing. When I do have that peace, then I look at, oh my God, this is such an incredible world, and I will express my peace into the world. So I probably won't hack out all the trees just because I can, or shoot all the wild animals because I can. I would probably just watch and enjoy their existence from a place where my existence is 100% taken care of. Right?
I'm loving our conversation today, Udo.
Even on a battlefield, when the soldiers are fighting, that battle is taking place in perfect peace. Why?
Because they're the same level of chaos.
No, because the peace is in them. It's within them. It's around them. It's between them. It's above them. It's below them. Because peace is already everywhere. So why are they fighting? Because they're not focused on the peace. They're focused on an idea in their head that says, you're my enemy, I'm going to kill you. And the other guys plays the same game and says, you're my enemy, I'm going to kill you. If they experience the peace in that situation, they would probably put their weapons down, say, how are your kids? How can I help? Is your water good? Is there anything I can do to help you live a life where all you basically, Yeah,
You said
well, or just a life where all your basic needs are taken care of.
so I would have to think it begins with one person. So we can't imagine that humanity will enlighten itself overnight. Um, one person has its own responsibility to its own peace. And from that is there a ripple effect of the peace that we generate within
Of
ourselves.
course, because of course, let me say it a little different.
Mhm.
If I was in the same place that I just talked about
The
of
war.
having
Mhm.
peace and seeing peace everywhere, right?
Okay, yes,
If
yes.
I was angry, what would I see? I'd be looking at that same world where the peace guy saw peace. And in that exact same world, I would be looking for enemies and I
Mhm.
would find them. And if I couldn't find them, I'd create them
Right.
because I'm
You're
angry,
right.
because I want to beat something up.
Mhm.
Right. And so when I'm in an emotional state of peace rather than a state of being called peace, sorry, an emotional state called anger,
Mhm.
if I'm in that emotional state, I will perceive enemies where the peace guy won't see any,
Mhm.
and I will then treat them like enemies where the peace guy won't treat them like that. Because that's automatic. My state of being, the state that I'm in,
Yes.
automatically comes to expression. Even if I'm angry and don't say it, I'm, and my face will almost be blowing up, right?
Mhm.
And people will see. And that energy radiates from me
Mhm.
directly. Now, if I was fearful in that same situation, I wouldn't be seeing enemies. Now I'd be seeing danger. And
Mhm.
if there was no danger, I would be creating things to be dangerous just so I could respond to them that way
Right.
because of my state of being. So I'm both imposing my state of being on my perception, and then I'm acting my state of being on the world automatically.
Like a frequency.
Yeah, it's like a frequency.
Mhm.
But it shows in it doesn't just show in energy and in like cosmic stuff. It shows in my thoughts. It
Mhm.
shows in my feeling.
Mhm.
Shows in those drive my thoughts.
Mhm.
Those drive my
Absolutely.
words,
Mhm.
and those drive my actions.
Fair
And
enough.
those create consequences. So state of being, and yes, the only place where you can find that perfect peace and unconditional love and inspired creativity is in the space your body occupies.
Mm.
And I can find it in the space my body occupies.
So help me
And every
understand.
human being
Uh-huh.
has that built in because that is human nature.
Mhm.
Every human being can find that in the space their body occupies. Should they want to, and that'll be driven most of the time by heartache.
Yeah. And so follow the longing, follow that discontent, the ache.
Yeah,
It's a jewel
yeah,
leading you home.
yeah.
And so I have another question.
Mm-hmm,
Playing devil's advocate here from conversations I've had with certain people.
mm-hmm.
There's some people that call themselves and see themselves as empaths, and they speak of
Empath, yeah. Mm-hmm.
the energy around them, how to protect myself from the energies around me. If I am responsible for my own space and this own journey, what's your thoughts? What are your thoughts around people believing that they're impacted by the other energies around them and maintaining that wholeness inside of themselves despite other energies around them?
Well, first of all, everybody, whether they're the empath or the perpetrator or whatever,
Uh-huh.
everybody has that wholeness in them. But you can't be protected by the wholeness in you from other energies if your focus is not on this energy.
Mm.
And you can be empathic and still stay in your peace. It's
So
not like
not being focused on
people
their
use,
energy impacting you.
yeah, because people use being an empath as an excuse for becoming victimized by situations or by other people.
Yes,
And
I agree.
so they're just missing something. Not we're all sensitive to things.
Mhm.
When the earth starts shaking, I notice. Right? When the
Right.
volcano blows up and the big cloud happens, I notice.
Mhm.
Right? And the more sensitive I am, the less drastic it has to be before I notice.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all, and of course you have to be sensitive to other people, because as a child, your life depends on it, right? So
Right.
so every human being comes with sensitivity. And then we have different ways of dealing with it. If you don't like the sensitivity, then you can create yourself a belief system that you become very harsh at hanging on to, even though it's just a bunch of dumb ideas.
Right.
But you can make that your rock,
Mm-hmm.
right?
It's all defense mechanisms ultimately.
Yeah. Or if you do what we're talking about, if you bring your awareness inside to the peace in you and the unconditional love in you, you can be present there and present in the energy of somebody else or some situation too. You don't have to give this away to go there. You can stay here and be there too. And in fact, that is actually the goal, to be fully present in all of your being and your surroundings and not tripped up in your head. And when I started doing my practice, I would go into the practice, I'd have these great experiences, and then I'd get out of the practice and I'd be right back into the crazy world that, and all of that. And I didn't like it. And it took me a while. I never figured out for probably 6 years, maybe. I never figured out, you know what? I'm going to go into this place. And when I'm done with my formal practice of sitting still, I'm going to get up. I'm going to take that energy with me, because it's always there.
Right.
I'm going to stay in that energy, and I'm going to drag it out into the world with me. Why? Because I don't want to give up that. I don't want to give up that experience. There's my fulfillment. Why should I give it up? Especially, why should I give it up when I don't have to? But nobody had ever told me that you can be in that place and be doing what you're doing in the world at the same time.
At the same time, right.
But it requires some practice. It's like doing 2 beats on one drum and 3 beats at the same time on the other drum. It takes practice, because we're not automatically wired that way. So then you have to do it. And I've tried to do that, and I never had. I could have learned it. I know I could have learned it. But I didn't have the staying power, and it wasn't important enough for me to learn it. But for people who it is, they learn how to do that.
Right.
And how important is it to be able to stay in my wholeness and do what I need to do in the world as well?
What have you noticed has changed? What have you noticed has changed in your life since you've learned how to do that in the world?
I don't rise to the bait. That covers a lot of territory, right?
Yeah,
because there's always something, there's always something. Yes, people want your attention because they have agendas for you that may not be your agendas for you. That's how sales are done. And, and maybe some people, there's all kinds of, and some of the agendas are pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Right. So you can see the agenda, but you don't have to buy into it. And especially when you feel whole and content and you have everything, because you do. In life, you have everything. You don't need more. It becomes easier and easier to enjoy the game, even when you don't play it.
Yeah.
And have a choice to play it or not to play it. Because
that observer consciousness that I read about.
Yeah, you could call it that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And is there a reason why I shouldn't be present in my own space when I dance with you?
Of course not. Wouldn't we want everybody to be present in their own space? Isn't that the gift? We get to also observe.
Right. But where's the formal training for that?
There isn't. I haven't found it.
People don't even talk about it. People don't even talk about it. Right? But then here's the thing. I was married once. I have 3 kids. Right. And I got into my marriage before I understood all this that I'm talking about. And the way the marriage went was like this. I saw the beauty in her. I had never talked to her. I just saw her, and it was like, oh my God. It was like, and apparently she had the same reaction when she saw me.
Awesome.
We had, yeah, we were young and we had energy and,
Mhm.
you know, we're nice looking,
Yeah.
whatever that exactly means, right?
Attraction
And,
factor. Yeah.
and so I thought that my fulfillment would come from her because I saw there's what I'm looking for.
Mhm.
And she thought her fulfillment would come from me because she saw the fulfillment there because we were shining. We were hot.
Mhm.
You know, I was a stud and she was a goddess,
Mhm.
right?
There you go.
Yeah. But when it comes to, you know, falling in love is easy, but living love
Mm.
takes effort. And here's what we didn't know. She had never found the connection to herself.
Mm.
I hadn't found my connection to myself either. So she expected the love to come from me, and I expected the love to come from her. So I basically put that on her, and she put that on me. But I
Unconsciously.
couldn't get to it to bring it out, and she couldn't get to it to bring it out. What if neither of the people in the relationship can get to the love that they need? The relationship makes the relationship amazing. Then where the hell is the love supposed to come from? But I didn't know that because nowhere in my psychology had that been clear. And when I'm not present in my own space and
Mhm.
she talks to me, there's nobody home. Who's she talking to? You
Who are
know?
you talking to?
Yeah. And then I'm talking to her and she's not in her space. You know, at some point you get tired of it and said, you know, there's nobody home. We're not even having a relationship. We're having a relationship with a fantasy in our head about the other person.
Yeah. And we can tell the difference, you know, whenever we know
Totally.
that that love isn't whole, it's not there. And I love that we're talking about this today because
Yeah.
that's, I think, how we're healing the world, right?
Yeah. Because that problem in relationships has the same source as my problem of my PTSD
Mhm.
or my anxiety or my depression or my addiction. Because you know, if I was addicted to this, that'd be a good addiction, right?
Yeah.
To feeling
Addicted to
whole.
our own self wholeness. Yeah,
Yeah. But to feeling
definitely.
whole, not a concept of wholeness, always to feeling whole, to
Mhm.
being present. And how can you be whole? How can you feel whole if you're not present in your space? It's like, wow.
Oh, this has been a wonderful conversation.
Same thing in politics. You know, the
Yeah.
politicians, when they start yelling at each other, they're not in their space.
Nope.
You can hear arrogance and you can hear opinions and you hear assumptions. But what you
Blaming.
don't hear, what you don't hear is life in me is like life in you. Most of what we do, we have in common. Very little separates us, even if we're Democrats and Republicans or liberals and conservatives or whatever
Mhm.
you call them in whichever country you're in.
Right.
Most things we need on this planet to do are the same for everybody. You got to eat, you got to pee, you got to sleep.
Mhm.
You know, in winter you need warm, in summer you want cool. You
Mhm.
know, you want fun. You want to raise your kids. You want to give them whatever you can to make them successful, whatever that means, right? You need to breathe. You need to
Moving and
drink water.
grow.
You need to drink
Mhm.
food, right? Sunshine is preferable to incessant rain for most people,
Yeah.
right? So most of the things we need to do are pretty simple. And we have so elaborated our thinking, our thoughts, most of which are, when it came down to it, if those thoughts disappeared, nothing much would change.
Mm.
And that's what we fight over, and that's what we kill each other over.
Yeah. For centuries.
You know? It goes 200,000 years.
Yeah. Very interesting.
You know,
There's a quote that was on your website I pulled down. I love this quote, and it's very much what we're speaking about today. It's, there has never, ever been anything wrong with you, no
yeah,
matter what others have told you or what you've told
but-
yourself.
right,
In your essence, you have always been whole, cared for, and perfect.
yeah.
And today,
But
that is how we lit up. from inside.
Yeah, but then you know, the blowback from that is, well, what do you mean? If a person's killed somebody, you know, there's nothing wrong with them.
The judgment.
But, yeah, then we go into all of that. So here's the rest of it. There has never ever been anything wrong with you, no matter what you've been told or what you've told yourself. Even though you felt bad, that led to negative thinking, and that might have led to nasty words, and that might have led to destructive actions, and that led to stupid, dangerous, damaging outcomes. But you are not the consequences. You are not the actions. You are not the words. You are not the thoughts, and you are not the feelings. You are life. And there's never, ever, and will never, ever be anything wrong with life. Now, do you treat yourself as though you were life? No. But if you embraced the life you are and became comfortable in it, your feelings would change, your thoughts would change, your words would change, your actions would change, and the consequences would change.
That first level regard is where things begin.
Yeah.
I love this. Thank you for your time today, Udo.
Yeah.
The wisdom has been profound and universal, one of your words there. I'm taking this with me, and I'm feeling that wholeness inside just from hearing words and pondering and concentrating on it. It's given me a new consideration and aim at making that a discipline, and as important as breathing each day.
As important.
Thank you so much. And so you can find more about Udo at theudo.com. And he's also on Facebook, and his Facebook handle is the Udo Erasmus. And then you can find him on Instagram, which is awesome. And that's Udo Erasmus. And I follow you on LinkedIn too, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And I love all your quotes and the things that you post each day.
I got a YouTube channel under Udo Erasmus. And I also have a website called UDO'S.CHOICE.com, UDO'S CHOICE.com. Awesome. That's where we talk about the oil. You know, after flax oil, we developed a blend because flax oil is poorly balanced. So we work with a blend, and we work with digestive enzymes and probiotics. And
so the next time we have you on, let's dive into the health side, because you're so brainy on that one. Today, I love that we went into that, the spiritual side, the true essence of who we are. Because you asked me some profound questions when we first met, and it stayed with me. And every now and then I hear your voice in my head reminding me that I am love, and that is the essence of what I am. And so whenever I get worried or anxious or trying to figure things out on my own or frustrated, Udo's words are in my head reminding me of the true essence of life.
and definitely life has never said that you're not whole and perfect. Life has never said that.
No.
People have said it, you've said it to yourself. But life, if life didn't think you were worthwhile, it would just very quickly recycle your body. Exactly. The fact that you're here means life loves you unconditionally, loves your body unconditionally.
I'm really good that I like life, and life likes me. That's kind of cool. Great. Well, thank you so much, Udo, for being our guest today on the Light Your Life podcast.
Thanks.
We wish you well
Tina.
until next time.
Always fun to party with you.
Yes, it is. It is.
Good party.
And thank you, everybody, for listening and for tuning in to Light Your Life. Make this a podcast that you favorite and spread with the world.